John chapter 1, introduction. What is this chapter about? It seems like a very kind of a philosophical way of starting things, which, as I explained in why I believe the book was written as well, proves to me that this was written to people who would have understood this, right? And it's not just any person who would understand this. It's a specific group of people living at that stage in time who would have understood this the best, which is for me proof again that this was written to the leadership, or the religious leadership of the day, which in a big sense had a lot of political leadership as well, but I mean they were not. Therefore you had Herod and then ultimately Rome, right? But the role they played and how they played in society. So it starts off with, in the beginning was the Word, just like Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning God, right? The only two books in the Bible that starts exactly the same way with the same words. Now I understand the one in Hebrew and the other one here in Greek, but when they translate it, they use the same Greek word, for example, there and here, okay, and the same Greek word here and there. So it's the same, totally the same concept. There's the direct connection immediately there. No other gospel starts like this, and it starts off with immediately the fact that Jesus is God. Right? I know the Jehovah's Witnesses, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. Okay, so they put in an indefinite article there, so as to, but we will get to that, back to that when we do the study. So it immediately starts out this way, proving. Now, I always hold the fact that, or at least believe that this is because John is trying his utmost to prove that Jesus is God. Right? Now, the interesting thing, if you go and read the epistles of John, now they were written at the later stage, sure, but there the problem was not that the people didn't believe that Jesus is God. The problem was that the people didn't believe that he's man. Okay, so there's actually a bigger problem for those as well who want to say that the Christians invented this concept that Jesus is God kind of idea. Is that actually the interesting fact is that the people had a lot easier understanding that Jesus, or believed that Jesus is God, but they had a bigger understanding of a problem or teaching that Jesus is not a man, fully man. Okay, so I don't feel or think that this. I think what is more based upon is on the whole concept of knowledge, but not Gnostic knowledge. Okay, because as well when they speak a lot about knowledge, I think, oh, these are Gnostics. We had to move and recording now in a different spot. Sometimes when we move, I try to do all of this teaching in one take, because kind of easier on the editing part. Then there's no need for cutting and pasting, and as well to just have my thoughts flow, because I don't use any notes, anything like that. Just everything kind of flows from my mind, kind of preparing and studying it through the years. So I prefer to do it. But sometimes things happen, like in this case now we thought that maybe the sound's not working, so we had to stop, and anyhow we start dripping again, and we had to, for that reason as well, move, because it might rain and then the camera is not water protected. So, but now the sun came out again, and which is good. Now, so I will continue with the introduction to John here. See, sometimes just these kinds of things, there's lots of things already this morning happened which puts me off, because just how my brain works, things need to flow, and when it's flowing, it's just kind of flowing, it's just flowing. And when I'm interrupted, then finding my storyline again and restarting is very difficult for me. I always kind of need the time to sort of relax and calm down and just sort my brain out and my thoughts out again before I can restart. And I was just thinking as well, I mean, why all these gremlins? Why all these things going wrong? You know, we are just finished one book, and this is just a second book. And if every time the things are just going to make me feel I want to give up or whatever, it's just a big task of doing this in nature in every book. So one needs to know that there's going to be these kinds of interruptions, and just either you make a choice of doing it and let the interruptions as kind of let them be, or be so much disturbed. Well, my choice is to continue yes, it will disturb me, but I need to continue, and I just need to get through all of this. And it's a fight, right? Ultimately, it's a fight. Faith is not easy. Are we willing to fight, or will all these small little things always stop us? So let's continue. Knowledge. The whole concept of knowledge right there, because they're speaking of knowing. And lots of people then think of that this is kind of a Gnostic knowledge. Okay, this is Gnosticism. This is not so. That's why the Gnostics like to. But again, because they got the whole idea of the book wrong. Right? There's nothing to do with knowledge in the sense of we have special knowledge. That's just the opposite of it. That's the whole point that John is trying to make here. Right? It's the fact that we did not have the knowledge, right? That's the whole kind of the point. We saw it all. Jesus gave us this knowledge. There's all of this information, knowledge that's open to everyone, but we did not know. So it's not closed knowledge. It's not like extra knowledge out there that was hidden, kind of, and therefore the people could not understand. This is actually open knowledge. Right? So it's the opposite of Gnosticism. It was open knowledge. It was so open that they didn't understand it. Okay, this is what John is getting at. Right? This is what it is. So again, it's not Semitic, anti-Semitic, because he was pleading with the Jews. Look at the introduction on the book. It is not Gnosticism, it's anti-Gnosticism. Why? Because it's speaking of knowledge that's open to everyone, to all these people that he's writing to, that they could have, that they as disciples ought to have understood, but they did not. Okay, so I hope you will understand all of these things. So even then the people were abusing the book for the wrong reasons, because they didn't understand what it's really about. Okay, it's not hidden knowledge. This is open knowledge. This is what he's trying to get at. Because God created everything. He was there. He was the one who created everything, right? And the other connection there. In the beginning, God created. In the beginning was the Word, was God. And, okay, so all of these things perfectly fit in together. What was created first? Let there be light, right? Let there be light. So Jesus is the light. Coming to His own did not receive Him. We are, all of us, created by God, right? We see in Him the glory. Right, all these things is bringing out so clearly here in the first chapter. The grace. Yes, there's a law that came through Moses, but the grace that comes, does that mean the law is not grace? Right? We will look at that as well when we get through the chapter. And so then ultimately the baptism, John the Baptist being introduced as a witness too, like creation. Right? We're standing in this beautiful park with this waterfall here in the back. Right, this creation of God speaks to who He is. Like John here speaks to who Jesus is. But we look at creation and we don't see God. We see Mother Nature creating itself. Right? God clearly shouts through creation. Every drop that falls there, God is shouting to us, I made this. I made this. Yes, that bridge there, everything was built by humans. Who gave humans brains? The Creator, not Mother Nature. The Creator, God the Father. Okay, and the same way John is speaking here, and John, the reason why John is using, he's the only one who doesn't speak of John the Baptist, but just John. I will get back to that as well. That's more proof to me that John, the disciple, wrote this at the early stage. Okay, because otherwise he would have said, like the other writers, John the Baptist. Okay, and so John was this nature here, like in Genesis chapter 1, shouting about God as a creator. Like John is shouting about Jesus. And they did not know. They rejected Him. Like man would reject God there in the Garden of Eden, because they want to be gods. So the baptism is not explained per se. He just said what he saw, and then he told the lamp. And the other interesting thing as well in the Gospel of John is the fact that on this day, on that day, and the third day, right? So it's like on the first day God created this, the second day that, and the third was day, night and day kind of, right? That same kind of concept that you find here, which again points back to that there. Okay, so this all connections are absolutely everywhere. and then the disciples started following, and then they go and they get Simon, and they bring Simon, and then there's a naming like Adam did for the animals. Okay, and God naming as well. In the Garden of Eden, God gave the name to all these things before He gave Adam the name, the thing. So again, that connection there as well. The changing of a name immediately, God naming. And then the connection of, well, sitting on the fig tree, and the ladder, Jacob, the dream, right? That connection. So we see so much Genesis in this chapter. Is unbelievable, right? If you didn't, so again, my questions: who would have understood this the best? But those ones who taught it the whole time, right? The leadership, the religious leaders, the spiritual leaders, they would have understood this the best. Okay, so yeah, that is chapter 1, and so now we will start looking at the different verses from verse 1 onwards.